Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title of today's video, I decided to read the highest rated romances on my Kindle Unlimited TBR. Mostly this idea is because I have had the same books on my Kindle Unlimited TBR for months and months and months now, and I want to get that down, but also I need some good romances. You know, I'm like itching for a 5-star. I haven't had a ton of 5 stars this year. I need some, you know? Everybody needs a good romance in their life. So I went through all 20 of the books on my TBR. I went on Goodreads, I did some research, did some digging, and I came up with 3 that I will be reading in this video. I'm pretty excited. One of them is a historical romance, which we know I love, and I tend to rate historical romance higher if it's very good. So I'm feeling confident with that one. It's like an enemies to lovers situation. We have a contemporary romance that is like an enemies to lovers grumpy hero fixing a house up situation, and then lastly we have best friends, brother, childhood best friends sort of situation. Lots of angst apparently. I'm excited for all 3. We're gonna read them, I'm gonna talk about them, we're gonna get some 5 stars, and we're going to love all of them. Fingers crossed. So I am 50% of the way through 2 of the 3 books that I'll be reading for this video. We'll start with Rivalry of Hearts. I am obsessed with this book. Like, I'm calling it right now. This is easily going to be a 5-star read. I don't know how many 5 stars I've had this year. It hasn't been a lot, but this is going to be one of them. Have not stopped giggling and kicking my feet and smiling since I started this book. So it's a historical fantasy romance, and it's delightful. So it follows Edwina, who is human, and she's an author. And she travels to the Fae world, the Fae realm, the Fae Isles, whatever, to go on a book tour. She's an author, a published author, and in the human world, her books aren't like very popular. They're like fantasy romance with Fae and all of that. They're not super popular, but in the Fae Islands, in the Fae lands, they're incredibly popular. She's going to the Fae lands to go on this tour around the Fae lands to promote her book. She ends up running late to the first location, and so the publisher brings on another author to join her because they obviously need to make up for the lack of her presence, right? So they bring on William, who is the hero, and he is a poet. He is Fae. And we don't really know a ton about him. We know that he was once an actor, and now he's a poet, and he is something of a trickster, something of a liar, and he was once an actor. His acting career was sort of ruined, and so he became a poet to care for his sister, his younger sister. The situation with this book tour is whichever author sells the most books will get a publishing deal. They'll get to live in the Fae lands, and they'll have like a contract for 3 books and all of that kind of stuff. Edwina and Will have this agreement, this bargain deal between the 2 of them that was kind of made while Edwina was drunk, that whoever can seduce the most people and have a kiss behind their bedroom door will win the publishing contract. The hero kind of proposes this bargain because he wants to hook up with the heroine, and that just completely goes over her head. They have a lot of tension between them. This does a very, very good job of like the rivals to lovers thing, where they are intensely annoyed by each other, and they also have their own reasons for wanting this publishing contract, and so they are, for all intents and purposes, rivals in this on this book tour. And this book is delightful. It's funny, it's witty, there's so much tension between the characters, they feel real, and there's not a lot of focus on extraneous details, and the interactions between the hero and the heroine are amazing. They're funny, they're tension filled. You can tell that the author really thought out their like characters, really did the character work, really did the world building work, because we don't get a ton of information about the world, but it still feels very grounded and real, and it's just a delightful book. I think the romance is there. It's not like deeply emotional. They have had some emotional moments, but I would say a lot of it has been the banter and the jokes between them and the few tender moments here and there that really bring the romance together. But it's an absolute joy to read. I'm loving it, and I can 100% see it being a 5-star. Like, I didn't want to stop reading it, but I wanted to film a halfway update, so loving it. And then I'm also halfway through Best Laid Plans. This is a contemporary romance, and it follows Burke and Charlotte. And in the beginning of the book, Burke gets notified by his best friend's attorney that his best friend and his best friend's wife have passed away and left him an old house, like an old fixer-upper house that they were fixing up when they passed. The heroine is someone that comes in and helps people make sure that their house design and all of that is historically accurate. And so she was working with Amy, the best friend's wife, to fix up this house. The house is not in very good shape. It has like foundation issues. It's old. There just needs to be a lot of work done on it. And when Burke first gets there, he doesn't really have any interest in this house. He very much wants to like get it fixed and sell it, or like make it a rental or turn it into an inn or something along those lines. And he doesn't really have any interest in being involved in the process. But as he has started working with Charlotte, he has found a soft spot for the house and become more involved. They obviously have a like relationship. They have some tension between the two of them. I will say with this book, there isn't a ton of character work. A lot of it is the relationship. A lot of it is the interactions between the hero and the heroine. While the interactions for me are nice, I like reading them. This is an easy read. This is a book that I had no issues getting to the 50% mark. I like their relationship. I like the characters. And I feel like everything's fleshed out enough. There isn't quite the amount of depth as I would like, especially in a contemporary romance. With things like fantasy, I think you can get away, especially like on the funnier side, you can get away with the more like tension-filled aspects, the more romantic aspects, without diving too deep into the characters. But with a contemporary, like, your story is all about the characters. There isn't enough fleshing out of the characters that I would like, and I'm hoping that it's more of like we get them fleshed out as the romance is growing and as they're sort of exploring each other. But so far it's been tensions of them working and figuring out how to make this house work. I can see like the beats of the story coming. I can see how the story is going to resolve itself. Obviously with a romance, you know, like what the ending is going to be, right? And that's kind of the appeal of a romance, is like, you know, in the end you're going to get a happy for now or a happily ever after. But I tend not to like stories that are too telegraphed, that are too easy to like, this is exactly what's going to happen. And in this story, that's definitely what I'm seeing. I'm like, okay, this is going to happen next. This is going to happen next. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it just doesn't make for the most engrossing story. So it's kind of it's a good read, and I'm enjoying it. And again, it was one of those, like, I wanted to continue reading it, but I wanted to do a halfway update. But it's not nearly as gripping as Rivalry of Hearts is. Of course, like, I'm more of a fantasy, I'm more of a historical romance fan, so like putting those elements together, I'm gonna like it more than a contemporary. But this just feels like a very solid rivals to business partners to lovers situation where they just kind of bicker and stuff. It just feels very solid and good and well written, but not anything super mind-blowing. So I'm probably going to finish up those books. We'll talk about them, and then we'll get into the last book of the the video, which I have started. I got through the prologue. Yeah, so let me finish these two and we'll talk. Okay, so I have finished 2 of the books for this video and I thought we could talk about them. First of all, we can talk about Rivalry of Hearts because I finished it first. It's so fucking good. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I absolutely freaking adored it. It's a fantastic, funny, fun romance. I think anybody who is really into the like historical fantasy romances is really gonna like it. I really enjoyed it. I think their romance was tension-filled and sexy. I think the world was very grounded and the hero, William, beautiful, and altogether I think the romance was sweet, and I'm so excited to read more from this series. So very in love with this book, very impressed, and I fully intend to read more from this author as soon as I possibly can. So very happy about that one. 5 star, love. And then I also finished Best Laid Plans. So I finished this via audiobook because I was a little bit not feeling reading with my eyeballs. So I finished via the audiobook. Kindle Unlimited has like the ebook audiobook special thing for it. I landed on a 4 star for this one. That might have been a little bit generous, but all of the issues that I had with the romance resolved itself by the end. I could see the emotional tethers between the hero and heroine. I think they work well together. I understand why they could work in a long-term situation. And again, another very swoony hero. I loved the way that they understood each other, the way that they tackled each other's respective relationship issues and life issues, and the tension was there. I liked that they didn't have sex until later on in the book. I prefer a slow burn. So overall, I think it's a good romance. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite couple, but I do like the characters. I do feel like a major flaw of this story is we get a lot more of the hero than we do the heroine, which is just like a minor pet peeve of mine, and I also didn't love the conflict. It's very much one of those, like, the hero thinks that he knows better for the heroine than she knows for herself sort of situations, which I don't personally love, but it fit with the hero and like his need to protect people and take care of people. So it made sense for the story and the character, but it's just not my personal favorite. So those are just a little minor complaints. I think the overall rating for it was like a 4.20 or something, which I can see why a lot of people would really like this, especially if you're a fan of like the billionaire, the Disneyland author, or some of the like more popular romance authors. I think this kind of fits in with those as well, and it handles grief and some harder hitting emotions pretty well. So I see why it has a high rating. Obviously for Rival of Hearts or whatever, I 100% get it. Like, if I gave it 5 stars, I think it's a perfect book, but I like these two and I can understand the higher rating. And I also am maybe like 10% of the way through An Optimist's Guide to Heartbreak or something. It's fairly short. It's only 280 pages, so I think it's like 400 pages split into 2 books. I'm not the biggest fan of like that, but I don't mind. So basically this is about a girl who moves back to her hometown, and she moves into her childhood best friend's old house, and it's a lot about like reminiscing on her friend. She finds her like diaries hidden in the floorboard, and she tries to reconnect with her best friend's brother, who she was also very close with, and she goes to the auto repair place that he owns, and he's very grumpy, very standoffish, doesn't really want anything to do with her, and she's left feeling a little bit bereft. However, he does accept her in his receptionist position, so where I left off at the 10% mark or wherever I'm at, that has just now happened. So I like Jennifer Hartman's writing. I think she has more well-rounded writing than some contemporary KU romances have, and she does well with like the angst and the tension. It so far isn't like crazy good. Like I said, I'm not very far in, but I will reserve all opinions for like the 50% mark, and I'll probably update you guys then and give you some of my thoughts. Like, it's a really short book, so it might be 50%, it might be 100, I'm not really sure, we'll see. But those are my thoughts on the first two. Really liked them, and I'm excited to see how The Optimist Guide is, so we'll talk later. Okay friends, I have finished The Optimist Guide to Heartbreak, or whatever this is called. I landed on a 3-star for this one. I, from the very beginning, wasn't like super invested in the story, in the relationship, in the characters. I feel like I have read this story 1,000 times, and while with some writers who I really love, I can read very typical stories, tropey stories, and enjoy it. Jennifer Hartman is not one of those for me. I read her most popular, Still Beating, a couple of years ago, and I wasn't enamored with it, and I think this is too normal for me, you know? Like, I like normal stories, like contemporary stories, like Best Laid Plans. Like, that is what I would consider to be a very normal story. It deals with grief, similar to this one, but I think the writing of that was just a little bit more gripping, whereas this didn't have anything to like sink my teeth into. There wasn't any part of either of their personalities that I was like super into. It was like a grumpy sunshine thing. I wasn't super into it. I think I just didn't connect with it, and I understand that a lot of people love Jennifer Hartman's writing. A lot of people met her through Still Beating, and they really loved it, and so they're kind of on board for anything that she writes, but that's just like simply not me. But that means that I am done with this video. I have read everything. I found a 5-star, and I found a 4-star, you know, no complaints. I had kind of the gambit of good ratings for all of these books, so I'm not mad at the results of this video by any means. And I got 3 books off my Kindle Unlimited TBR, which I'm feeling good about. So I would love to talk down below on your thoughts on any of the books that I read. Have you read any of them? Did you like them? Do you not like them? Have you read other things by these authors that you recommend? I would love to talk down below. What's on your Kindle Unlimited TBR that you just cannot get off? I would love to talk about that too, because I have a ton. Don't forget to subscribe if you like more things like this. I do a ton of different types of content, reading content being one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in my next one.